so bad that I was not able to perform for the purpose that I have taken a birth. But then it's so late that we cannot reverse our train. But at least when we are strong and young, we have to fix our mind. As Lochan Das Thakur says, there is no happiness anywhere else except taking complete shelter of the divine couple. So we have to really dwell on it and make some plan. If you don't plan for it, it's not going to happen. We do plan everything, material world. But as far as spiritual comes, we slacken our faith and determination. So I'm going to read one more paragraph. We are reading from Srimad Siksha, Splendid Instructions to the Mind by Raghunath Das Goswami. Currently we are on the verse number 6 and commentary by Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj. Initially in spiritual life, we are extremely enthusiastic. And that's the reason, the devotee, when they get the initiation, I tell them to write the whole day from morning to night what thoughts were going through your mind and heart. Capture it and maintain it and read it. Feeling that this is exactly what we need. Especially if he came to Krishna consciousness after having suffered or having been disillusioned in material life. We think that the beginning attraction and ecstasy will last forever. But we have seen at some point this ecstasy is over and we are faced with our gross and subtle anarthas, preventing us from truly seeing or feeling the God. So we will continue. Raghunath Das Goswami is urging us to watch our motives in order to eliminate our anarthas. In a number of lectures, Srila Prabhupada very easy defines anartha nivrutti. He says, you have stopped smoking. That is already one anartha less. These cigarettes are definitely an anartha. There is nothing of value in them, and you have given up meat eating. Another anartha less. You have removed the desire for gross sex, and you have given up gambling. 2 more anarthas gone. In the beginning, on the gross level, we are getting purified. Gradually, as the process of cleansing our mind goes on, new anarthas become obvious to us in the form of false motives and deception. The desire for recognition and honor is a most dangerous anarthas because we begin seeking satisfaction of this anartha in the society of devotees. As long as we are respected, we think we do not care whether we are respected or not. But as soon as someone passes by without greeting us, a storm rises in our mind. Who is he anyway? He is a junior devotee. Why didn't he say hello to me? Who does he think he is? He's got nothing but anarthas, for he has no respect for the devotees. This subtle desire for recognition, in essence, is the same as the more subtle desire for sex. We want to be recognized and respected so that in one way or another we are put in the center. Another very important point we must understand, not just read or hear, but to understand, is that sometimes the anarthas come in a very subtle way. That is what deception is about. Sometimes our material attachment disguise themselves so well, it is impossible to recognize them. They may come in the form of some noble ideas or in the form of austerities in our service. For example, sometimes when we chant the holy name, we get distracted by some great revelation. And before we know it, this revelation has already distracted us from Krishna. Therefore, we must understand that all these anarthas or material attachments that we face in the process of cleansing the heart will take very perverted forms. Arjuna's attachment came to him in the form of compassion and love for his spiritual master, which Arjuna thought was very noble. However, Krishna saw this attachment as an anartha. Anarthas came to Yudhishthira in the form of attachment to the fact he had never lied. In the Puranas, there is this recurring phenomenon that the demigods worry when someone successfully engages in spiritual practice or some kind of austerities and start sending him various obstacles. Indra in his heavenly kingdom sent some apsaras to distract the practitioner from his austerities. Sometimes brahmacharis think, quote, why hasn't Indra sent me apsara yet? Doesn't he see what progress I have made and the austerities I'm performing? Unquote. But actually, Indra does send us apsaras. You chant the Mahamantra and suddenly an apsara appears in your mind and start dancing. She is sent by Indra because all the demigods are situated in our body and senses. So when we are performing devotional service, all the distractions we are subject to are sent by the demigods. But we should think about what an apsara is. This is a very important point. Sometimes obstacle can take on a very beautiful shape. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself said, Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim kavitam. I do not want sundarim or kavitam. I do not want lovely words, lovely ideas and thoughts. When anarthas come in a gross form, they are not as dangerous as when they come in a subtle form. I think we will finish this couple of points. As a result of deception, we lose the ability for introspection. Alexander Pushkin used to say, quote, it is easy to deceive me, for I myself am glad to be deceived. There is no need for anyone to cheat me. I'll cheat myself. People lose their ability for introspection and for self analysis. So they start reassuring themselves that everything is fine when it is not. Sometimes you can see the people are lying to themselves, but the defense is so dense that it is impossible to give them the opportunity to look at themselves from a different angle. That is the problem of deception. It is sometimes so deep, a person loses the ability to see their self deception. This is why it is the duty of a devotee to be constantly introspective and to ask, how sincere am I? What are my motives and what drives me? At first, the tendency to deceive is exhibited in a harmless way. A person has been given extra change and he thinks, quote, a nice way to earn money, unquote. Sometimes a person jokes, and for the sake of being witty, he slightly exaggerates. Sometimes a person argues, and in the heat of debate, he resorts to lies. Sometimes a person assigns to himself something that does not belong to him or speak rudely. The Acharya says that all these actions are based on asat. So we will continue reading nice commentary by our Acharyas. And now we will be dwelling in the life of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, volume number 3, chapter title, India Revisited, part number 2. I will read one more paragraph, what we read yesterday. If publications are there, we can work from one center only like New York or San Francisco for propagating our cult all over the world. Let us stick to the publication of BTG more and more nicely and publish some Vedic literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, etc. So we left it there, so we will continue. As Prabhupada's mind turned more to the preaching that awaited him in America, he assessed what he had done so far, what he would do, and the process by which he would do it. Prabhupada is writing in his own words, I'm not in agreement with Mr. Altman that we are expanding very thinly. In my opinion, a single sincere soul can maintain a center. And who exhibited that quality? Jayanand Prabhu. He was maintaining the whole temple by driving a taxi cab, even though he was the engineer, mechanical engineer from Ohio State University. Haribol. You know, I started this center at 22nd Avenue alone. I took the risk of $200 per month for rent. At that time, there were no assistants. Mukunda was at that time a friend, but there was no responsibility for him for maintaining the center. Gradually, Kirtananda and Hayagriva joined, but they did not take any responsibility. Still, I was maintaining the establishment simply depending on Krishna. And then Krishna sent me everything, man and money. Similarly, if a sincere soul goes out and opens a center in any part of the world, Krishna will help him in all respects. Without being empowered by Krishna, nobody can preach Krishna consciousness. It is not academic qualification or financial strength which help in these matters, but it is sincerity of purpose which help us always. Therefore, I wish that you, Brahmananda, will remain in charge of New York. Let Satsvarup be in charge of Boston. Let Mukunda be in charge of San Francisco. And let Janardhan be in charge of Montreal. Let Nandarani and Dayananda be in charge of Los Angeles. And let Subhaldas be in charge of Santa Fe. In this way, you will follow my example as I did in the beginning at 26 2nd Avenue. That is preaching, cooking, writing, talking, chanting, everything one man's work. I never thought about the audience. I was prepared to chant if there were no men to hear me. The principle of chanting is to glorify the Lord and not to attract a crowd. If Krishna hears nicely, then he will ask some sincere devotees to gather in such place. Therefore, be advised that thousands of centers may be started if you find out a sincere soul for each and every center. We do not require more men to start. If there is one sincere soul, that is sufficient to start the new center. Very good. On October 12th, Srila Prabhupada wrote to Krishna Devi as follows. I'm coming soon to San Francisco, and I shall let you know the exact date sometime next week. I'm coming over very soon to see you when everything will be adjusted. Hope you are well. And the health notes from Achyutanand continue to arrive. Please tell the devotees out there to take good care of him. It is a very hard task trying to restrain him from overworking himself. But they must be strict. He still has to take his medicines and get his massage every single day. On November 28th, Prabhupada dispatched by boat to New York more than 800 copies of the first 3 volumes of his Srimad Bhagavatam. And on the next day, his P-form finally cleared. Immediately, he booked passage on Pan American Airlines and sent a cable informing Mukunda that he would arrive in San Francisco on November 24 at 12:45 p.m. But again, his departure was delayed, this time by a strike by the Communist Party in Calcutta. Business closed, cars, buses, rickshaws, and trains stopped running. Riots broke out, and there were murders and assassinations. Meanwhile, Prabhupada remained at the Radha Govinda temple. Prabhupada is writing that my return to your country is already settled. but due to a petty revolution in Calcutta, I'm not able to leave. Our San Francisco friends may be very anxious because I sent them two telegrams, one informing them of my arrival and the other cancelling it. Future arrangements are pending. So 2 weeks passed while waiting in his room for the political strike to end. Prabhupada received a letter from Umapati, one of the devotees he has initiated at the first initiation in New York in September of 1966. Umapati had given up practicing Krishna consciousness for half a year. But now he wrote to say he was back. How Prabhupada responded. Just read. It is my duty to deliver you the right thing in right earnestness, and it is the duty of the receiver to act in the standard spiritual regulations. When you left us, I simply prayed to Krishna for your return to Krishna consciousness, because that was my duty. Any good soul who approaches me once for spiritual enlightenment is supposed to be depending on my responsibility to get him back to Krishna, back home. The disciple may misunderstand a bona fide spiritual master being obliged to do so under the pressure of Maya's influence. But a bona fide spiritual master never lets go a devotee once accepted. When a disciple misunderstands a bona fide spiritual master, the master regrets for his inability to protect the disciple, and sometimes he cries with tears in his eyes. We had an experience while my Guru Maharaj was alive. One of his disciples who accepted sannyas was one day forcibly dragged by his wife. My Guru Maharaj lamented with tears in his eyes, saying that he could not save the soul. We should always, therefore, be careful of being attacked by Maya's influence. And the only means of guarantee is to chant Hare Krishna offenselessly. Haribol. When Prabhupada received news of quarreling in the Los Angeles temple, he replied to Nandarani as follows. I know that my presence is very urgently required. Arrangement is already completed, and circumstances alone have checked my departure. Please, therefore, don't be worried. I'm coming to your place with a fortnight. At the end of the first week of December, the strike ended, and Srila Prabhupada again booked passage. You will be pleased to know that I have purchased my ticket for New York via Tokyo and San Francisco. I'm starting tomorrow morning at 9:30. By evening, reaching Tokyo via Bangkok and Hong Kong. I shall rest 24 hours in Tokyo, and on the 14th at night, I'm starting for San Francisco. By local time, I'm reaching San Francisco on the same day, the 14th, at 12:45 p.m. by PAA, flight number 846. Yesterday I have sent one telegram to this effect, and I hope I shall read there safely as casual. I am so glad to learn that Satyabrat and yourself are trying to get the teachings of Lord Chaitanya published. You do not know how pleased I am to hear this news. When one book is published, I think I have conquered an empire. So try to publish as many books as possible. And that will enhance the beauty and prestige of our society. The impersonalist mission has nothing to say substantial, but because they have money and have published so many rubbish literatures, they have become very cheaply popular. You can just imagine how much powerful our society will become when we have as many substantial literature published. We should not only publish in English, but also in other important languages such as French and German. When the day for Prabhupada's departure finally arrived, he gave last instruction to Achyutanand and Ramanuja. Quote, just pray to Lord Krishna that I can go to America, unquote. He requested Achyutananda. Quote, how can I? Achyutanand replied, quote, you will be leaving me, unquote. No, Srila Prabhupada replied. We will always remain packed up together if you remember my teachings. If you preach, you will become strong. And all this teaching will be in the proper perspective. When we stop our preaching, then everything becomes stagnated and we lose our life. Even here in India, people think that they know everything, but they are wrong. There is no end to hearing about Krishna. God is unlimited. So no one can say, I know everything about God. Those who say they know everything about God, they do not know. So everyone will appreciate you. Do not fear. Achyutanand is expressing in his own word as follows. When I returned to the room after sending off Swamiji and paying my obeisances at the airport, I felt a void. I felt very lonely and rather weak. I returned to the room in front of Sri Radha Govinda and chanting on my beads. I started pacing back and forth. What will I preach? The black and white marble floor passed under me. I stepped on the crack in between the cracks and on the black and white marble again and again. Then I realized I wasn't seeing Radha Krishna. So I sat down directly in front and saw the brilliant form of Radha Govindaji, and my eyes filled with tears. Srila Prabhupada spent his stopover in Tokyo mostly in going to his hotel and checking into a room, bathing, resting, eating, and returning to the airport the next day in time for his flight to San Francisco. But he did speak with a government secretary, explaining that Krishna consciousness was a universal philosophy for reviving a person's original eternal consciousness. And he explained the crucial need for Krishna consciousness in human society. The secretary, however, said he felt certain that the Japanese government wouldn't be able to help a religious movement. Prabhupada was annoyed. This supposedly educated man was so ignorant as to mistake Krishna consciousness for merely another sectarian religion. Prabhupada wanted intelligent men to try to understand Krishna consciousness and understand that the Gita was actual knowledge, transcendental knowledge, beyond the inferior knowledge of the senses and the mind. But he had his plane to catch. Japan would have to wait. So I think we have reached the time. We shall be